An Addiction Guide. Chapter 1. My Take on Addictions. Addictions, cheap fix for an empty soul. 1. I'm a workaholic who uses other addictions, booze, sex, food, shopping, gambling, etc., to reward this addiction. Generic addict. Self is everywhere, shining forth from all beings. Vaster than the vast, subtler than the most subtle. Unreachable, yet nearer than breath, than heartbeat. Eye cannot see it, ear cannot hear it, nor tongue utter it. Only in deep absorption can the mind grow pure and silent, merge with the formless truth. He who finds it is free, he has found himself. He has solved the great riddle, his heart is forever at peace. Whole, he enters the whole. His personal self returns to its radiant, intimate, deathless source. As rivers lose name and form when they disappear into the sea, the sage leaves behind all traces when he disappears into the light. Perceiving the truth, he becomes the truth, he passes beyond all suffering. Beyond death, all the knots of his heart are loosed. Mundaka Upanishads. Addictions are a byproduct of a neurotic society based on the capitalist ideology of filling yourself up with material things and cheap thrills, trying to reach a level of perfection as defined by the media ideal of success, but never getting enough because you're trying to get a fulfilled, transcendent, nirvana-type feeling that frees you from the mundanity of the human condition and makes you soar on high in perfect ease for a while, but you can't get it from these things because they're not inherent to the real you in your soul, despite the hype of society through clever advertising to make you think you can buy it. Addictions are a quick fix desire to feel good in response to the emptiness you feel within, either loneliness, love problems, identity confusion, tangible problems like money, relationship, business hassles, school, etc., or an unfulfilled soul. Addictions are a signal that something is off in your life regardless of what it is. It could be an addiction to bodybuilding, shopping, food, booze, drugs, etc. It all has roots in the same causes. You either feel lonely or empty due to an unfulfilled soul and you're dealing with it via the addiction. Mind you, in order to be a champion of life, you have to be obsessive and excessive at some points in time in order to achieve what you want with yourself, but you have to have the sense to back off and release the stress through sensual activities, not as a crutch but to make you feel good, to complement your inspired, hard-working lifestyle. Loss of self, my term for depression, is the empty soul, uninspiration, the worst feeling on the planet, yet many people don't know why they feel empty, so they try to get rid of it by working hard to make money, then shopping, buying a new car, going to a restaurant, eating junk food, looking for love in all the wrong places, socializing aimlessly, seeking out cheap thrills, getting a makeover, a new hairstyle, getting addicted to something, but these are all band-aids on the real cut, which is a bleeding soul, you detached from the real inner you. They say we have a 20% depression rate among the general population. I say it's a great business, to complexify some fake mental illness called depression, make a mint treating it through therapy, then make another mint selling people all kinds of drugs to deal with it. But depression is just a fancy, deep-sounding word for a simple thing, uninspiration. Life and depression are that simple. If you're uninspired/depressed, get inspired by discovering who you really are in your soul, then following it. There's the solution to all the depression in the world without psychobabble. The reason for loneliness is mostly an unfulfilled soul, because when you're an empty person like this, people don't want to share their lives with you, so loneliness comes from being miserable within yourself because you have an unfulfilled soul that makes you feel so bad that others don't want to be part of you. Artists are generally people with high, egocentric visions of themselves, people who love themselves and are comfortable being alone because they have plenty to do. In fact, many think they have a divine mission and don't have time to give to other people. They'd rather be alone than be in relationships, the exact opposite of loneliness. It's a great way to be if you're like this, because then you're not affected by this human weakness of needing to be around other people to feel good. I'm not saying social contact is useless, I'm saying be strong enough such that you'll be fine with or without it. You might not realize that loneliness or lack of identity is fueling your addiction, so you have to analyze yourself and see what's motivating the addiction to the extent that you want to escape from the real world and retreat into your addiction to give you a comfortable, escapist, warm, relaxed feeling for a while. You start on the road to recovery by reconnecting with your soul. The soul is the base. When it's empty because you're not doing what you want to do with your life, living the way you feel you should and are capable of, using up your natural energy the way you were meant to, you become both depressed and angry, alienate the people around you, so you get lonely in addition to being unfulfilled spiritually to top it all off. Go to the creative arts, see all the casualties on the street of broken dreams, wannabe actors, musicians, and writers who didn't get the success they felt they deserved in their souls, so they became a bunch of drunks and drug addicts trying to cover up empty lives that got that way because they didn't achieve their perceptions of their potential in the so-called real world, so they take it out on themselves. My solution, as is the solution of every enlightened person on the planet, is to live by your own standard, what's in your soul, know it's right and keep doing it regardless of what the world may say about you or your work. Nikola Tesla could have been one of the most underrated geniuses of all time, yet if you ever read his biography and see pictures of him throughout his life, you can tell immediately that he had a kind of nobility within himself that was beyond all the petty rantings of the conventional world. In his own writings, he had that kind of natural self-assured belief in himself that was real. It wasn't based on hype or bravado. He genuinely thought of himself as a man with a divinely inspired purpose in life. He was happy in his own space. When he died, I'm sure if anyone's spirit was still going on as strong as ever in another dimension, it was his. If you can live in a headspace like this, you'll never have any weaknesses that will lead you to addictions. The entire basis of all addictions is that addicts don't do it for fun anymore. It's to relieve the emptiness within caused by not fulfilling themselves soulfully and or not having enough love in their lives, soul and love. Some people would call me an addict for mind-altering sensations, but I don't feel empty. I love to do it because it's a great experience of life. I love to get high, but at the same time I can be a Spartan and follow my natural, inspired standard every day for 2 weeks straight without catching a buzz. That's where I differ from the addict. I do it because I love it, not to relieve some emptiness in my life. If you have an addiction to anything negative and even some positive things you do to excess, it's a sign that you're trying to compensate for an empty life or numb it over by getting that numbing feeling of temporary pleasure your addiction gives you. The opposite is inspiration through soulful pursuits and loving relationships that you almost can't get enough of, but you can even take this to excess if you neglect the harbor for your soul and your need for rest. The only solution to a fulfilled life is to find the flow in your soul and live by it, then addictions will be meaningless to you. The old self dies and the real you comes out, living by what lies in your soul/subconscious mind. Think inspired soulful pursuits. Find your particular ones, work on them to reach a level of mastery, then the process of doing them regularly should fill your soul enough up such that you don't need addictions to fill that emptiness you feel inside. Anyone who's addicted to anything is missing out on some part of life, either self-fulfillment through soulful pursuits, enjoying sensual pleasures and having intimate relationships with people and or pets. They're either trying to find comfort through their addiction as a compensation for this inner feeling of emptiness, or they're beating themselves up, punishing themselves, purposely trying to self-destruct on a subconscious level because they feel like unworthy, unfulfilled human beings who are not doing what they really want to do with their lives and must be punished in order to get some semblance of a worthy feeling back. Most people don't really do with their lives what was imprinted on their souls when they were born. They follow the formula of success that the world preaches at them, which is why we've got an entire world acting all successful on the outside while wondering to themselves on the inside, why do they still feel empty, not right, that there's got to be something else besides this version of life. Japan is a fairly wealthy country with a lot of successful guys who had to pass X number of tests competing with the rest of the nation to get into the best schools, then competing with that cream of the crop to be hired by the best corporations. After they get hired, the implicit ideology is that they'll work hard and be loyal to the company for life, and in exchange the company will pay them well, give them lots of benefits and even free stays at the company resort in some vacation area. Yet anyone that knows the inside truth about Japan knows that they're a bunch of drunks, smokers, and adulterers. Why? Because they have to unload after working those tough jobs in artificial surroundings that are not inherent to their true natures, and end up sacrificing whatever freedom might exist in their souls for their nation's definition of success, the net result being a bunch of repressed, frustrated men who drink and smoke like dogs and go to Hawaii to chase American hookers. But all these things are just stupid addictions that don't deal with the real problem: unfulfilled souls that aren't living the lives they really want to live. This pattern is repeated in every capitalist nation, maybe not as intense, but it's still there. America still has room for the free-thinking type who wants to do his own thing and start his own business. Japan, as a culture, is more communal than America, but that's not to say our universities aren't filled with a bunch of brainwashed kids looking to get jobs in things they aren't really interested in, but doing it because it's society's definition of success. Then 10 years later, they look at themselves and say, why am I doing this crap that I have absolutely no interest in? It makes me sick to go to work every day. But by then they have 2 kids and a mortgage payment, so they're stuck, another victim of the system. I sat in on a sermon where the preacher said all addiction is an attempt to fill a big hole, that of loneliness. The secret to life is to be happy within yourself. The formula is to find your soul, then do your soulful pursuits to live by the flow of your soul, which keeps you inspired and fulfilled such that it makes you a calm, good lover. If you don't have somebody to love and want a lover, which some people don't, it puts you in the zone where prospective lovers are interested in you because you have a natural spark for life and no need to self-destruct through negative addictions. Don't take anything to the extreme. Take a lesson from the Greeks with their golden mean and from the Bible with its 7 deadly sins of excess to know that balance is everything. Addictions, cheap fix for an empty soul too. Existential loneliness is the deep inherent feeling of emptiness caused by being alone in the world. Over the course of a lifetime run, most people can't get over it and seek out warm, comfy feelings with other people somehow, someway, even if it's as superficial as going to church on Sunday, hanging out at the mall, or cheering for the same sports team. Many people do self-destructive things to try to capture a warm, fuzzy feeling to relieve the emptiness of both the unfulfilled soul and the lack of intimate love in their lives. Most addictions are an attempt to relieve the emptiness within, lack of soul and/or love, with a temporary, comforting feeling like shopping, eating, booze and drugs. If you have an addiction in anything negative or even positive, too much of anything is not good for you. That might give you a good feeling at the time but will eventually destroy you. It's wrong. It shows you're not in harmony with yourself. Addictions in positive things aren't healthy either, because you're trying to overcompensate for something missing in your life with something else. True fulfillment is doing what you love but not doing it to the extent that it burns you out. It's doing it for the joy of it, enjoying the journey and sharing it with like-minded souls. Many athletes and business people dedicate themselves to winning something because they think they'll be admired and loved, or think that this is their way to get back at the people who put them down, by presuming to be superior. But it doesn't work, because you're not living a balanced, fulfilled life on the entire spectrum: the noble soulful parts, the sensual hedonistic parts, and the intimate, loving parts. Do it all in a flow and you'll be alright. You won't have to eat that gallon of ice cream or do that ounce of cocaine to try to get somewhere where you're feeling good and free, because you'll already be there by virtue of the life you're living. The cocaine and ice cream are just extra pleasures you enjoy but don't get all obsessed with and hooked on. Despite the blurb I just gave about addictions, I'm a creature of excess, so I go off on my binges when I feel them, but it's not an addiction because I just do it for a day or several days, get my fill for a while, then go back to my inspired soulful pursuits. Often if I drink or do dope and catch that first little bit of a buzz, all reason leaves me and I just wanna ride that feeling of euphoria for a while, so I'll ride it until I've had my fill or can barely stay awake. Then I have a good sleep and get up to do some exercises and engage in my creative pursuits. In general, all addictions stem from the same cause: there's something missing in your life or you feel empty about something. The bases are biology, chemistry of the brain, genetics, and psychological reasons. The most common addictions are Alcohol, candy, sugar, carbohydrates, fat, coffee, tea, colas, caffeine, prescription drugs, recreational substances, sex, love, shopping, acquiring material goods, smoking, nicotine. Treatments from the conventional medical field are often used in conjunction with one another, usually several at a time, whatever works. The most common therapies are counseling, exercise, holistic methods, journaling, meditation, mental health drugs, nutrition, positive thinking, prayer, support groups, vitamin therapy. Books about addictions in general are at hashtag 616.8526-86 or RC 552 to RC 564 at the library. I watched the TV show Intervention on putlockerhd.io. I'm not an addict. I was an extremist when I was young, but I learned to temper myself on my own. The TV show Intervention has been going for at least 23 seasons. I think human weakness is the biggest cause of addiction. I don't buy into the child molestation, child deprivation argument causing addiction because you create your life as you live it. You make the choice. I still watch the show because you watch the losers and their excuses. You know their shortcomings, so you can ask yourself, is that me, the wimp? There is a Christian radio show called Unshackled that exists at unshackled.org and youtube.com. Type in Unshackled Radio Show. A lot of those stories have to do with alcohol and drugs. Chapter 2. Addiction Info. Addictions, conventional view. All addictions are a craving for love. For the addict, the drug of choice is more. A definition of addiction is continued use despite negative consequences. Addiction is a powerful and compulsive need for substance or an activity like shopping or stealing. People with addictions will do almost anything to get their next fix, even steal, neglect their responsibilities, trash their families, etc. It's a crisis around the world, a burden on healthcare, crime, lost productivity, property destruction, and necessary treatment/education services. There is no universal explanation as to why people become addicts, although I think it's an empty soul. A person is not centered and inspired enough within themselves, so they seek out something to take away the feeling of emptiness and loneliness within. It's tied in with the following factors: genetic predisposition, observing addicted parents as a child, low self-esteem, escape from a mundane or otherwise troubled life, for pleasure, to fit in, rebellion and peer pressure. Addiction and recovery is big business and here to stay. Many people out there don't seem to able to control their lives, hence, a huge movement/industry in this direction. Despite all the many so-called therapies and treatments created over the years, it all comes down to one basic thing, and that is that the addict has to admit to him or herself that he's gotta stop to save his own life and to stop hurting the people that love him, and the people around him are just there for support to help him through. Health insurance is starting to cover a lot of addiction problems. Many professional and trade organizations have programs and support groups for people in their industries. The licensing boards and state professional associations of many occupations offer confidential programs where you can work on your addiction without jeopardizing your license. I think that anyone who's addicted to anything is missing out on some part of life, either control or love, and they're either trying to find comfort through their addiction or they're beating themselves up, punishing themselves for something. I sat in on a sermon where the preacher said all addiction is an attempt to fill a big hole, that of loneliness. Loneliness is the root of almost all problems, especially addictions. It's a form of self-sabotage. The secret to life is to be happy within yourself. You can always develop yourself somehow, and if that's not enough, there's always someone out there that you can help out. Don't take anything to the extreme. Take a lesson from the Greeks with their golden mean and from the Holy Bible with its 7 deadly sins of excess to know that balance is everything. Addictions are a signal that something is off in your life regardless of what it is. It could be an addiction to bodybuilding, shopping, food, booze, drugs, etc., it all has roots in the same causes. You either feel lonely, unfulfilled in your life, or out of control, and you're subconsciously dealing with it via the addiction. You can break out of it by realizing the reasons behind it, then simply willing it away. Don't buy into the crap about it being a disease. That's something created by therapists to lure more people into counseling so they can make more money, particularly if addictions are classified as diseases, which means that they're covered by medical insurance. It's all a cop-out. You got into it, you can get out of it with just the power of your mind, body, and soul. Addiction transfer info. Addiction transfer is a relatively obscure concept relegated to women who have lost weight and are now substituting alcohol for their former food addiction. You get rid of one addiction but start getting addicted to something else. It's common in people who have gastric bypass surgery, lose a bunch of weight but still haven't confronted the psychological underpinnings of their addictive behavior. These people become alcoholics, hooked on pills, sex addicts, etc. newstarget.com/019775.html Workaholic/workaholism. My work is my worth. Workaholism is positive for some people because you perceive yourself as an artist of work. You love it so much that there's nothing else you'd rather do with your life, but the picture is not so clear and rosy. They say workaholism often hides other problems like wanting to escape home life, alcoholism. If you're single, you don't want to go home and be lonely, a distraction to cover up some problem you have, etc. Personally, I'm a workaholic for what I love to do because it keeps me inspired about my life. Day by day, my life is about releasing a certain amount of my natural energy to meet my own personal standard in life. This is generally a monumental amount of work, only to me it's not work. It's kinda like my fountain of youth. It keeps me young. There's almost nothing else I'd rather do. I don't want to go to Disneyland. I think most TV and movies suck. Frivolous pursuits like golf and video games bore me. I love what I do and I intuitively know it keeps me young, so I only think it's workaholism if it stresses you out, and there are plenty of counseling services opening up to treat workplace stress. Some workaholics burn out physically via heart attacks, brain hemorrhages, ulcers, etc. Others burn out mentally via depression, stress, and suicide. You need balance in your life. Remember the old cliché about not wishing you had spent more time at the office on your deathbed. Free time to do what you really want to do is the goal of life. Find something you really love to do that can earn you your cash. Lower your standard of living if it means more free time. You don't need much to live a great life. 1099.com/c/co/dw/pe/economy014.html, in defense of workaholism. ahealthyme.com/topic/workaholism. allaboutLifeChallenges.org/workaholic.htm. askmen.com. charminghealth.com/applicability/workaholism.htm. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/workaholic. family.org/lifechallenges/000000820.cfm. graduatingengineer.com/article/05-23-06f.html. Are you at risk for workaholism? healing-journeys.com/work.htm. justpeople.com/content news/career advice/working life/workaholism.asp. maledepression.com. managementhelp.org/prsn_WLL/workaholic.htm. medicinenet.com/script/main/art.asp ? article key = 514225. mirrorsinc.com/articles. mirrorsinc.com/articles. men.webmd.com. mload.com. narcissistic-abuse.com/leisure.html. r-a.org, Recoveries Anonymous. selfhelpmagazine.com/articles/wf/work.html. smh.com.au/news/business/workaholism -a-sin-that-must-be-stomped-on. soulwork.net/sw_articles_ang/addictions.htm. spiritoefrecovery.com/work.html, counseling for behavioral addictions. timedie.org, books about minimizing work, enjoying life. workaholic.org. workaholicsforhire.com. workaholics-anonymous.org. Workaholics Anonymous. 510-273-9253. workaholics-anonymous.org. Workaholics Self-Help Clearinghouse. Westchester Community College. 74, Grasslands Road. Valhalla, New York, 10595. Addiction websites 1. Addictions.org. Addictions.com. Stopaddiction.com. well.com/user/WOA. Center for Addiction and Alternative Medicine Research. 914 South 8th Street. Minneapolis, Minnesota, 55404. 612-347-7670. Fax, 612-347-7669. National Acupuncture Detoxification Association. POG 1927. Vancouver, Washington, 98668-1927. 888-765 NADA. 360-260-8620. QTalks.com. Spender Menders. POG 15,156. San Francisco, California, 94115. 415-773-9754. Shopping Addiction. Addiction websites 2. Books about addictions in general are at hashtag 616.8526-86 or RC 552 to RC 564 at the library. freeaddictionhelpline.com. 866-569-7077. Information and answers on addiction. abrahamtwerski.com. If you have an active addiction, deal with that problem before all others and seek professional help. Addicted.com. addictionrecov.org. library.albany.edu/briggs/addiction.html. addictionrecov.org, the Illinois Institute for Addiction Recovery. addictionrecoveryguide.org. journalhome.com/dual recovery journal/49743/connection of addict Iona and mental illness.html. addictions.co.uk. addictions.com. addictions.org. addictions.org/netaddict.htm, internet addiction. addictionzarch.com. addictiontreatmentplus.com, Brunswick, Me. addictiontribe.com. alcoholics-anonymous.org. allaboutLifeChallenges.org. aplaceofhope.com/addiction.html. az-arc.com. cmhc.com/guide/iad.htm. cognitive-therapy-associates.com/addiction-issues.php. crchealth.com, addictions treatment disorders and behavioral therapy programs linking human systems.com. crossroadsantigua.org, Caribbean. earthsky.org/health/addiction-now-as-chronic-disease-of-the-brain. emofree.com/addictions. fhu.com/shopping_audios08.html. firstholistic.com. gamblersanonymous.org. healthyplace.com. journalhome.com/dual recovery journal/49743/connection of addict Iona and mental illness.html. judithwright.com, overcome soft addictions that can interfere with your success. landstodes.com, an addictive act is always a displacement activity, you're doing something other than what you want to do. myaddiction.com, pumpyaurora.com, realizationcenter.net, recoverychat.com, sjailer.net/addiction easy choice, settingcaptivesfree.com, freedom from habitual sin, overeating, pornography, smoking, sexaa.org, stopaddiction.com, stop-addictions-secrets.com, well.com/user/WOA, Web of Addictions, westernstar.com/health/content/shared auto/health news/adct/610445.html, addiction websites 3, Center for Addiction and Alternative Medicine Research, 914 South 8th Street, Minneapolis, Minnesota 55404, 612-347-7670, fax 612-347-7669, focus U.S. Journal of Drug and Alcohol Dependence, 3201 Southwest 15th Street, Deerfield Beach, Florida 33442, 800-851-9100, National Acupuncture Detoxification Association, POG 1927, Vancouver, Washington 98668-1927, 888-765 NADA, 360-260-8620, QTalks.com, Overcomers Outreach Incorporated, 2290 West Whittier Boulevard, #A, La Habra, California 90631, 213-697-3994, Christian Ministry of Self-Help Groups with a secular base, for drug addicts and all manner of other addicts like overeaters, gamblers, etc. Overcomers Victory Through Christ, 4905 North 96th Street, Omaha, Nebraska 68134, 402-397-3317, Christian Ministry of Self-Help Groups with a Christian base, for drug addicts and all manner of other addicts like overeaters, gamblers, etc. Recovering Magazine, 333 Valencia Street, number 230, San Francisco, California 94103, Spender Menders, POG 15156, San Francisco, California 94115, 415-773-9754. Shopping Addiction, Chapter 3, A General Addiction Website Guide from feedspot.com. Some lists of addiction websites at feedspot.com. blog.feedspot.com/drug_addiction_podcasts. blog.feedspot.com/rehab_blogs. blog.feedspot.com/addiction_podcasts. blog.feedspot.com/living_sober_blogs. blog.feedspot.com/eating_disorder_blogs. blog.feedspot.com/addiction_RSS_feeds. blog.feedspot.com/gambling_addiction_blogs. blog.feedspot.com/addiction_blogs. blog.feedspot.com/drug_addiction_blogs. blog.feedspot.com/UK_addiction_blogs. blog.feedspot.com/living_sober_blogs. A list of addiction websites from blog.feedspot.com/addiction_blogs. feedspot.com/news/addiction. thefix.com/blog. abeyondbelief.org. addictionblog.org. addictionblueprint.com. addictioncampuses.com/blog. addictioncenter.com/community. addictiondetoxcenters.com/category/blog. aforeverrecovery.com/blog. ahangoverfreelife.com. ahangoverfreelife.com. alcoholdrugsos.com. alpinerecoverylodge.com. altamirarecovery.com/blog. americanaddicioncenters.org/blog. A Mother's Addiction Journey.com. AnaheimLighthouse.com/blog. asanarecovery.com/blog-2. ashwoodrecovery.com/blog. atforum.com. beachsiderehab.com/blog. beginningstreatment.com/category/blog. behavioralcrossroads.com/news-media/rehab-blog. bergangroup.com/news. blog.celebratedrugrehab.com. bocarecoverycenter.com/blog. boozymusings.com. breakingthecycles.com/blog. castlecraig.co.uk/blog. kathytoggenbaugh.com/blog. christopherferry.me/blog. drink-and-drugs.com/blog. drug-addiction-support.org/drug-addiction-blog.html. drugrehab.com. freebythc.com/blog. helpforaddiction.co.uk/blog. hope-rehab-center-thailand.com/category/blog. ialcoholrecovery.com. immortalalcoholic.blogspot.com. justbelieverecovery.com. knowtheodds.org/blog. lastcallblog.me. letsobarup.com. lifeprocessprogram.com/category/lp-blog. lighthouse-treatment.com/blog. linlivingwithaddiction.com. marylandrecovery.com/blog. middlegate.co.uk/blog. midwood-addiction-treatment.com/blog. newstartrecovery.com/blog. newviewtreatment.com/blog. opiate-addiction-support.com/blog. opiates.com/wayasaman-method-blog. pacerecoverycenter.com/blog. recovery.org/voices. recoveryconnection.com/addiction-recovery-blog. reddit.com/r/addiction. rehabs.com/blog. sanantoniorecoverycenter.com/rehab-blog. sanfordhousegr.com/resources/blog. scottsdalerecovery.com/blog. seniorsaddictionrecovery.com. serenityrehab.org/blog. serenityspringsrecovery.com. smartrecovery.org/blog. sobanewjersey.com/blog. stjosephinstitute.com/blog. stopthedruguar.org/chronicle. theclearingnw.com/blog. themeadows.com/blog. thephoenixspirit.com. theraleighouse.com/addiction-blog. theriversource.org/the-river-source-blog. thesummitwellnessgroup.com. thetreatmentcenter.com/blog. twinlakesrecoverycenter.com/blog. twodreams.com/dream-journal. ukati.co.uk/blog. vainsati.blog. A list of addiction podcasts from blog.feedspot.com/addiction_podcasts. addictionunlimited.com/episodes. brainwarriorswaypodcast.com/episodes. businessinnovatorsradio.com/beyond-hope. castimonia.org/category/podcasts. fullpotentialnow.org. loveoveraddiction.com/podcast. marinc.org/category/podcasts. podcastrecovery.com. realzobriety.com. Recovery is possible for you too.podbean.com. sexandrelationshiphealing.com/sitemap/all-podcasts. theaddictedmind.com/category/sex-addiction/feed. thefreedommodel.org/the-addiction-solution-podcast. therecoveryshow.com/category/podcast. workoutaddictionrecovery.com/blog. A list of UK addiction websites from blog.feedspot.com/UK_addiction_blogs. blog.feedspot.com/UK_rehab_blogs. abbeycarefoundation.com/news. actiononaddiction.org.uk/news/latest-news. addiction.org.uk/addiction-blog. addictioncare.co.uk/news. ahangoverfreelife.com. castlecraig.co.uk/blog. helpforaddiction.co.uk/blog. middlegate.co.uk/blog. recovery.org.uk/blog. rehabforaddiction.co.uk/blog. ukati.co.uk/blog. A list of addiction websites from feedspot.com/news/addiction. The Fix. thefix.com. Self-help addiction recovery. smartrecovery.org. Reddit, addiction. reddit.com. Drug addiction treatment programs. addictioncampuses.com. Drug War Chronicle. stopthedrugwar.org. Asana Recovery. asanarecovery.com. Program in Costa Mesa, California. Anaheim Lighthouse, blog. anaheimlighthouse.com. Beachside Rehab. beachsiderehab.com. Let's Sober Up. letssoberup.com. Twin Lakes Recovery Center. twinlakesrecoverycenter.com. Rapid Detox Center. opiates.com. Lighthouse Treatment Center, blog. lighthousetreatment.com. Hope Rehab Center Thailand. hope-rehab-center-thailand.com. Serenity Springs. serenityspringsrecovery.com. Central Florida. Just Believe Recovery. justbelieverecovery.com. Jensen Beach. San Antonio Recovery Center. sanantoniorecoverycenter.com. Boca Recovery Center. bocarecoverycenter.com. St. Joseph Institute. blog.stjosephinstitute.com. Boozy Musings. boozymusings.com. The Bergand Group. bergangroup.com. Harford County. UK addiction rehabilitation websites at feedspot.com/news/UK_rehab. Rehab for Addiction blog, drug rehab and alcohol rehab. rehabforaddiction.co.uk